My grandson David faced his inaugural winter this year, marked by a record cold day according to the weather report. Concerns for David and his mother, Yvonne, crept into my thoughts. I worried that the frigid night might have taken a toll on her health. In an attempt to quell my unease, I sent Yvonne a message on my smartphone, asking about their well-being and urging them to guard against catching a cold. Despite my efforts, there was no response, not even a read receipt. Yvonne had always been responsible, so her silence raised my anxiety. After an hour of futile waiting, I tried calling, but my attempts proved fruitless. Realizing this was no trivial matter, a sense of urgency overcame me. I hastily donned a thick jumper and rushed to drive to my son's family apartment. However, when I rang the intercom, there was no response. Fearing the worst, that Yvonne might have collapsed inside, I persuaded the building manager to open the door. The apartment was shrouded in darkness, with only faint street lamp light seeping in. Searching along the wall, I fumbled for the light switch, but my repeated attempts yielded no illumination. Anxious and irritated, I resorted to using my smartphone's flashlight to explore. "Yvonne, are you there?" I called out, wondering if they were simply out. Just as I contemplated leaving, a faint cry echoed from the bedroom, prompting me to rush towards it. In the bedroom, I found Yvonne shivering from the cold, desperately wrapping newborn David in a sheet to keep him warm. To my shock, I noticed Yvonne's once long, proud black hair was now chopped off, almost completely shaved. Bewildered, I questioned, "What happened here?" "My name is Mary Smith," a 61-year-old woman who had worked as a hairstylist for many years, running a salon out of my home. My husband and I had started the salon together, but he passed away from cancer when our son, Harry, was young. Despite the challenges, I raised Harry single-handedly. He often skipped school and got into trouble, leaving me to wonder if my parenting played a role. One day, Harry surprised me by expressing a desire to become a hairstylist. Initially shocked, I decided to support him in this newfound interest. After graduating from cosmetology school, Harry became an apprentice at a senior salon, where he met Yvonne. Their relationship blossomed, and soon Harry proposed to her, declaring his intention to marry. Meeting Yvonne, with her long black hair and bright smile, left me instantly liking her. A year after their marriage, Harry aspired to start his own salon. Despite his relatively short time as an apprentice, he exuded confidence as a hairstylist. Yearning to establish my own space and showcase my skills, I felt a tinge of concern. Drawing from my experience, I understood the challenges newcomers face in the industry. However, I couldn't dismiss the earnestness in Harry's eyes as he spoke about his dream. Curious about his financial standing, I inquired about his savings. Harry shared his bank book with a troubled expression and a sigh. Despite having a stable income, Harry's spending mirrored his earnings, leaving him far from accumulating enough to launch his own business. He had been squandering a significant portion of his earnings on leisure activities. While I contemplated advising him to reconsider, I chose to reassure him, saying, "Don't worry about the money. Enjoy indulging yourself." Perhaps it was my way of compensating for the loneliness of my fatherless upbringing. Confiding in my late husband's portrait, I revealed that I hadn't touched the life insurance money he left behind, reserved for Harry. Consulting with a knowledgeable regular in real estate, we identified a perfect property, an old barber shop that had recently retired due to old age. Another regular offered her husband's assistance during the renovation, and with my son, who was studying architecture, home for the summer break, we got the construction underway. Upon receiving approval from the health department, the salon opened surprisingly quickly. Grateful for the support, I acknowledged that setting up the business wasn't something I could have accomplished alone. Handing Harry the bank book containing the remaining inheritance, I emphasized its purpose for his business expenses. With more than half the funds remaining, I urged him not to waste it. Harry chuckled in annoyance, assuring me he understood, and Yvonne, with a bright smile, promised to keep a close eye on his spending. With Yvonne's help, I felt relieved from worries and decided to oversee their business from a distance. However, my optimism waned as Yvonne occasionally updated me on their progress. 3 months after the salon's opening, she confided that Harry seemed disengaged, causing a decline in customer satisfaction and a loss of clientele. Perplexed, I couldn't fathom what had changed so rapidly. Yvonne explained that Harry, initially confident that his skills alone would attract customers, had overlooked the importance of customer service in running a salon. Realizing that Harry lacked this fundamental understanding, I grew concerned about the future success of their venture. "So, what's Harry up to now?" Yvonne explained that he's frustrated about the lack of customers and spends his days drinking. She expressed concern that if he doesn't get his act together, they'll lose even more clients. Currently, she's handling the existing customers, but with the continual drop in reputation, the business is on a downward spiral. Listening to Yvonne's worries, I felt a similar sense of despair. Promising to address the issue, I assured her that I would have a serious talk with Harry the next time I saw him. Grateful for the support, Yvonne bowed deeply, brushing back her long black hair. Trying to lighten the mood, I complimented Yvonne on her stunning hair, and she proudly shared that she had been growing it out since middle school for hair donation. She explained that it involves making wigs from real hair for children who have lost their hair due to congenital diseases, illnesses, or accidents. Yvonne had been growing her hair with the intention of donating it to organizations involved in this cause, expressing the joy of being able to help someone. Moved by Yvonne's passion and dedication, I commended her for such admirable actions, especially considering her young age. As the conversation unfolded, Yvonne revealed that 6 months into her marriage with Harry, she became pregnant. Despite being conscientious and hardworking, she continued working at the salon until the last month of her pregnancy, supporting the family while Harry's attitude worsened. Feeling my own shortcomings as a mother, I decided to check on their salon one day after finishing work early. I encountered Harry as he was about to leave for a drink, dismissing the lack of customers as normal. Attempting to make him realize the impending fatherhood, he shrugged it off and left. Inside the salon, I found Yvonne cleaning the floor. Having managed just one customer that day, despite her exhaustion, she smiled brightly. Concerned about her well-being, I sternly emphasized the importance of proper nutrition, especially for the baby. Yvonne teared up and thanked me, expressing gratitude for the support. Learning from Yvonne that the salon was struggling and Harry was spending money recklessly, I couldn't help but feel that giving him the bank book was a mistake. The situation seemed dire, and I couldn't shake the frustration and disappointment in Harry's lack of responsibility during such a crucial time. I found myself regretting my decision. Despite being occupied, Yvonne never neglected her hair care. As she gently stroked her belly, she expressed her desire to teach her child the joy of helping others. It dawned on me that I wanted to support her, especially since my son wasn't contributing much. Recognizing my shortcomings in raising my son, I decided to assist Yvonne at their apartment. Acknowledging the inconvenience, Yvonne would apologize, but I assured her not to worry and encouraged her to focus on the baby. I felt responsible for not raising my son properly, leading to Yvonne's suffering. It seemed like my way of atoning for my past mistakes. Towards the end of summer, Yvonne went into labor earlier than expected, and she was rushed to the hospital. Unfortunately, Harry was nowhere to be found, unreachable despite my attempts to contact him. I sent messages, but there were no replies, not even read receipts. It left me bewildered about his whereabouts during such a crucial time. With Yvonne's parents no longer around, I became the sole person there for her. I reassured Yvonne during the challenging childbirth, providing encouragement as she bravely faced the process. After a long and difficult labor, the sound of the baby's cries overwhelmed me. "He's born." "You did it, Yvonne." I was moved to tears, but Harry, who should have been present, never showed up. Meanwhile, my grandson David was experiencing his first winter, and the weather report indicated a record cold day. Concerned about Yvonne and newborn David, I sent a message that night, but there was no response, heightening my worry. After attempting to call without success, I decided to visit their apartment immediately. Upon arrival, the place was shrouded in darkness. Considering the possibility of a family trip, I rang the intercom, but there was no response. Fearing for Yvonne's well-being, I asked the building manager to open the door. The apartment was dark, and my attempts to turn on the lights proved futile. Using my smartphone's flashlight, I called out to Yvonne in the living room, receiving no response. As I was about to leave, a faint cry of a baby reached my ears from the bedroom. Rushing towards the sound, I discovered Yvonne shivering from the cold, wrapping newborn David in a sheet. To my shock, her once long, proud black hair had been roughly cut off, and her eyes, red and swollen from crying, looked at me helplessly. Overwhelmed, I exclaimed, "This is terrible. How did this happen?" I removed my jumper and draped it over Yvonne. Assuring her, I said, "It's okay now. Just tell me what happened, as much as you can." Yvonne began to speak slowly, revealing that Harry continued his daily escapades even after David was born. Financial struggles escalated, leading to an inability to pay the electric bill. Yvonne, unable to tolerate the situation any longer, scolded Harry, hoping he would become a more responsible father. However, her pleas fell on deaf ears. In a fit of rage, Harry grabbed a pair of practice hair-cutting scissors and started cutting off Yvonne's hair. Initially resisting and telling him to stop, Yvonne ceased her resistance, fearing any further struggle might accidentally harm David. Harry mocked Yvonne, stating, "Now you won't be able to show your face in public." I was left speechless at my son's cruel actions. Yvonne apologized, blaming herself again, but I reassured her, expressing that it was not her fault. I hugged Yvonne tightly, tears streaming down my face. The whole situation was a result of my overindulgence in raising Harry. My heart burned with shame and anger at my own failings and my son's inability to empathize with others. Taking a deep breath, I called Harry. "Hey, Mom, long time no talk. What's up?" Harry responded casually, and I inquired about Yvonne and David's well-being. There was a brief pause in his voice, and he claimed they were in Hawaii and would be back next week. Despite knowing he was lying, I responded positively. Reflecting on the years of taking care of Harry after losing my husband, I felt profound disappointment. Harry's careless use of his father's inheritance and mistreatment of his family shattered my expectations. A week later, Harry called me cheerfully, announcing his return from Hawaii. Pretending to be the caring son, he mentioned souvenirs, but my heart was no longer deceived by his act. Informing the building manager of my plans, I decided to take Yvonne and David back to my house. I made calls to every possible place. An hour later, Harry called, announcing his arrival at the airport. Despite his cheerful demeanor, my heart was wary. When a taxi pulled up in front of the apartment, Harry, displaying tan lines from sunglasses around his eyes, struggled with the key, realizing it wouldn't fit the lock. Frustration etched across his face. He exclaimed, "What's going on here?" I approached him quietly from behind, wearing a smile that masked the boiling anger in my heart. "Did you enjoy your trip to Hawaii?" I asked, trying to keep my tone light. Harry's relieved expression shifted as he saw me, mistaking the situation. "Mom, you're here," he said, his voice tinged with relief, oblivious to the storm brewing within me. "Listen, Mom, I just got back and tried to enter the house, but the key won't fit. It must be Yvonne's prank, punishing me for going on a trip alone," Harry explained, attempting to paint himself as the victim and blame Yvonne for their troubles. "What were you doing? I told you I was in Hawaii with my family," he continued, caught in his own web of lies. Pointing out the contradiction, I left Harry at a loss for words. "You really had the nerve to lie about taking a family trip to Hawaii," I said, my disappointment palpable. Yvonne had been left behind, shivering in the cold with David, while Harry indulged in his own desires. To think she cherished her long hair, and you just cut it off mercilessly. "Don't you feel any remorse as a human being?" I questioned, my voice heavy with emotion. But Harry showed no signs of remorse, only theatrics about the cold and his desire to enter the house. It was then that I dropped the bombshell. I had canceled the lease on the apartment. Harry protested, but the truth was, he had no right to complain. Taking him to a nearby coffee shop to talk further, Harry sat silently, his pale face betraying his inner turmoil. Eventually, he confessed his selfish reasoning, admitting to his reckless spending and empty promises. I shattered his illusions, telling him I had already sold the salon and the equipment, leaving him with nothing to reclaim. His protests fell on deaf ears as I calmly left the coffee shop, leaving him to face the consequences of his actions. In the following month, Harry's life spiraled further downward. His pleas for help were met with cold shoulders, and he faced legal repercussions for his reckless behavior. As for Yvonne and David, they found solace in our salon. Yvonne, regaining her strength, filed for divorce and threw herself into her work. With David's cheerful presence, the salon blossomed, attracting more customers drawn to Yvonne's warmth. Though the pain caused by Harry's actions lingers, we find solace in the smiles that now fill our salon. And in a quiet corner, David sleeps peacefully, his innocence a reminder of the brighter future ahead.